Yeah, so one more thing I want to highlight is the feedback, right? So I think the feedback loop is very important for AI solutions, right? So like, no AI model is perfect, just like no human is perfect, right? So they will make mistakes. And the key thing here is that you need to have a way for operator to give feedback easily and to collect feedbacks and then automatically feed those feedbacks into the model training workflow, right? So all those things has to be actually happen continuously without basic human supervision. So another important piece for the AI models to work. And so that's why, our customers like Insight Finder tool because we make the feedback as kind of the necessary step in our basically training loop, right? So we always believe you have to be able to continuously improve and adapt, right? So also we don't just actually throw a generic AI model to our customer saying, hey, you made it work, right? So most of the time this will fail if this kind of approach is presented to you because um, every enterprise is different, every computing environment is different, and any generic model they train over generic technology or generic data won't actually work well, right? So maybe they can answer 50% of the problems, but most of the time the solution they provide to you are not actually exactly addressing your environments. So the feedback driven kind of learning is necessary for any AI model to work.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think you nailed it. I think, general approach is great, but a lot of your business specific context, which fields are related, which service names are the same, what specific terms mean in your business, right? All of that feedback is necessary so that you get this model to adapt and learn the specifics of the context that it's operating in. We have a ton of questions, so I want to get to one specifically that really caught my attention, which was around trust of those predictions, right? And so the question is, how do you prove incident prediction is credible without rolling it to production? Right, meaning, like Helena, you were saying this, right? Like, sort of like after you gain trust, you can roll it out wider. But are there more limited ways to do that, right? The question says, are there ways to build up trust? Because most of our engineers don't think it really works well, right? So how do you see people approach that problem and gain that trust?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a very, very common question we encounter. So basically what we do here is to actually doing emulations, right? So we basically get the real data from our customer, historical data. But we actually have this kind of emulation capability. We can streaming this data as if it's the live data and perform live processing and prediction for our customer. And so they can see, right? So if they have this kind of tool in place and by replay the historical data, and they can potentially get this predictive alerts like 7 hours or 5 hours ahead, right? And so of course we are now just showcase for one place, and most of the time it's more like it's like a game, right? So our customer doesn't tell us where the problem is or when that problem happened, and so just feed all the data into our AI engine, let the AI actually show okay what's going on, right? So that's basically the kind of the easiest way to validate. And of course, the best way to validate is in live environments, right? So a lot of times, our customer doing basically like the gradual rollout, and so when the developers start to trust us, I mean, like the moment they start to actually see those alerts, and they will basically immediately trust us. I still remember like um, we have this customer and who actually runs the operation team, and he was a CTO of the company. And so when we first presented, his response is same thing, right? So I know the system, I don't believe this work. And so in it's a very kind of rejection, like common rejection we saw. But we say, okay, let's so at that time they are AWS, and we just tap into the CloudWatch data for them. And then and he was actually doing some kind of like, late night debugging. And he said, okay, I intentionally actually, well, he was not, he was like, he always late night, I was actually making mistake, and I know I made a mistake. And the moment he push out, and the inside finder alert him saying, hey, this is wrong, and you're going to break your system. And then basically that moment he was like, oh, that's a aha moment. The inside finder is watching. So that's the moment, right? And so you basically know something bad happened, and inside finder alert you, and then that's the moment you will trust it.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think, especially in deployment scenarios, right, or like known common failure scenarios, that might be a place to look and like slowly build that trust. But I think that's a wonderful example. I think we have time for one more, and I know we're already over time, so I'm going to pick this one since we were talking about it, which is when it comes to feedback loop mechanics, like what feedback do teams usually provide, and how do you capture that or turn it into something useful without burdening the response teams? Oh, so when somebody gives you feedback, like who takes care of that? How does it improve the model? Like what do you usually see? Like, can we talk about that quickly?
Yeah, we work with our customer a lot on this subject actually. So for example, for this recent deployment I mentioned with this Fortune 50 company. And so first of all, they actually building certain fields in ServiceNow, allow their operator to easily give basically feedback, just doing a drop down menu. So this is a good prediction, bad prediction, the good root cause, bad root cause. And so very simple, kind of a click a button, they can actually give the feedback, and the Insight Finder will automatically collect those information from ServiceNow. So we will basically collect all those, like, sum up, sum down kind of feedback, right? So from the from the ServiceNow, and then populate it into a page called a dashboard called Feedback Center. So we build this Feedback Center dashboard, and put all the feedbacks to our root causes, predictions in one place. So their data scientists or executives, they can see all the feedback. And then we also allow the user to do feedback, like, uploading, right? So if they actually collect feedbacks through internal documents, they can also upload through our website. And so once those feedback get collected, and so we also like, looking at, basically we are not basically required a customer to do a very detailed kind of data feedback, right? So because our algorithm will figure out what data is useful, and how to actually process those information. Those are basically not the kind of the kind of feedback we are looking for. We are looking for very simple feedback, right? This is good prediction, bad prediction. And so those feedback will actually feed into our knowledge base, and the knowledge base will basically look at, okay, under this root cause, and this basically the incident, we made the correct prediction, or we did not make a correct prediction. So it's more kind of like a feedback driven kind of reinforced learning, to like tune the AI models. So in this way, the model tuning is basically similar to like supervised learning, right? So it's as if you have some human to teach the AI model. This is correct prediction. This is wrong prediction. But instead of ask the customer to actually explicitly sitting there to label these results, we basically make it very easy in their workflow